What's up, guys? Is anyone still here? Everyone's still here? 68 people still here? So we're back. This is Armand. You guys have never met Armand, but currently working with Armand. He's doing college and learning web dev at the same time. Let me know if you guys can see this, hear this, or if the music's too loud.
Yeah. Is my voice good? Audio?
Hopefully.
Alright, cool.
Everyone just left. We back.
Alright. Cool.
Greg V, what's up? Good morning. We're doing a Team Treehouse stream now, so if you're interested in Team Treehouse, check out the link in the description. You get 7 days for free.
What's up, Greg? Good morning.
Yeah, let me
It's almost afternoon.
can you tag everyone? Can you do a at everyone here in the announcements and just tag this little Aubrey? If you could do it, that'd be sweet too. I don't know if you're still here. 16 people now.
Do I have the power to add everyone in the Discord?
I think so. Just put in the announcements. Your boy is back. Yeah, Zach, we're back. Yeah. So we're about to work through some Treehouse. This is Armand.
Yeah. What's up, man?
So he's doing college, and he's learning web dev. So I thought we'd work through some Treehouse React because that's what he's just about to start. So let's jump into
Johnny?
some React here. This is a different kind of style, right? We did an AMA for an hour. Now we're doing another live stream, which is just Team Treehouse. So we'll start here, and we'll work through. And he's connected to my Visual Studio Code, so yeah. Let's do a track.
We will be coding together.
Yep. Hit up some React here. Learn HTML, beginning JavaScript, deploying Rails. Probably just use a Heroku.
Alright, just for the stream, React's completely new for me, so I'm gonna be like a total noob here.
That's fine. That's fine. It'll be good. It'll be a good refresher.
You guys can watch me fail.
Hit up some React basics. Here we go. I'm gonna mute the music for this so we can focus. Can I explain the pair coding? So Armand here, he has never worked with React before. So he's about to start learning it. He's going to college right now for Java, but he's also wanting to do web dev so he can get that job. So that's what we're going to do. We're just going to work through Team Treehouse together and hit this React. So let's go back. Here we go. All right, we're about to start. Can you guys hear him okay? Here we go.
Alright.
Are you watching the stream too, Armand, right?
Yeah.
Just-
Hi
just
everyone, I'm Gil, a developer and
just
JavaScript
muted
teacher here at
for
Treehouse.
you,
In this
and
course,
then
I'm
I'll
going to
explain
teach you the
what
fundamental
stuff to talk
concepts of
about.
React, a JavaScript
Okay.
library for building user interfaces. React
Sounds
introduces
good.
a more efficient and flexible way of building, organizing, and maintaining your UI code. One of the main benefits of working with React is that it lets you build your application's user interface by breaking it up into small reusable pieces of code called components. For example, let's say that you're building a book review app using only HTML and JavaScript. You'll most likely create the UI by combining elements like divs, spans, inputs, and others. There are sections or pieces of the UI that you will likely reuse over and over again. For instance, there might be a star rating widget and a comments area for each book review. While those sections are composed with HTML elements like divs, headings, paragraphs, and images, each section can be thought of as a self-contained component. React provides tools for us to create our own custom components, then quickly compose or combine them together to build complex interactive UIs. This means we can design, build, even test a component once and then reuse it as needed in our application. The other big benefit is that React keeps your application's data or its state and the UI in sync and can efficiently update your UI when data changes. This is one of the most difficult parts of building interactive user interfaces. When building UIs with JavaScript, we often have some sort of data model. For example, we might use arrays and objects to describe our data. In the book review app, for instance, reviews might be represented as an array of objects, with each object being one book review. Imagine maintaining an application with hundreds or thousands of reviews. The programming or bookkeeping needed to manually keep visual elements like comments and ratings for all reviews in sync with your JavaScript data model can quickly grow out of control, especially as you add more and more features. So React includes clever features that remove much of the complexity around building your UI and keeping it in sync with your application data, allowing you to focus more on what your application should look like at any given moment instead of how to change it over time. You're going to learn more about components, application state, organizing and managing your UI code, and other core features of React as you progress through this course building your first React app. Since React makes use of the JavaScript language and relies on modern JavaScript principles, you should have some familiarity with programming in JavaScript. It's really challenging to learn both React and JavaScript at the same time, and I don't recommend it. So to help you be successful in this course, be sure that you've completed the prerequisites and reviewed the suggested resources posted in the teacher's notes with this video. Also, React changes frequently, so make sure that you read the teacher's notes associated with each video. Up next, you'll get started by learning the ways you can use React in your projects.
Let's continue.
All right, let's get started working with React. There are a few ways you can install and use React.
So
you can read about the
us to
most
make
common
the app
ways when
from
you visit
scratch.
React documentation at reactjs.org and click
But
Docs.
we'll probably
You'll
just
find
use
that
the
the React
workspace
docs
for
are
this
helpful
that's
and easy
built
to
in.
read, and I encourage you to refer to them frequently and keep them handy when building your React projects. So as listed here in the docs, two common ways to install and get set up with React is with a tool called Create React App and its CDN, or Content Delivery Network links. Create React App was built by developers at Facebook to help save you from the time-consuming setup and configuration that building a React application normally requires. There can be a lot of moving parts, from third-party libraries to install, lots of configuration, build tools, and other tasks. Create React App is the most common way to get up and running quickly with React. It automatically sets up a build system and creates the files and folders you need to get started with React. Now, using the tool does require that you have Node and NPM installed on your computer, and that you're a little bit familiar with the command line. But you're not going to have to install anything in this course, because we're going to add React to our project using the CDN links. This means that the React library is hosted by a third-party service, which we can link to in our project using the provided URLs. That way you can initially focus on just learning the ins and outs of React. But don't worry, you'll learn how to use React with build tools and create React app in a later course. To code along with me, you can download the project files for this course and open them in your preferred text editor, or launch the workspace with this video. I'm going to use Visual Studio Code, and to get us started, I've prepared the three main files we're going to use: index.html, app.css, and app.js. App.css contains the styles for our project. Now, we won't be working with the CSS as we go through the project, but feel free to change it as you please. In the file index.html, you'll notice that I've included React in our project using the script tags and the React CDN development links provided in the docs. Now, when building web applications in React, you use two libraries, React and React DOM. So why two separate libraries, and what's the difference? Well, you see, React started out as a library for building interfaces in the browser. The patterns and tools it provides are so useful that React has been extended to native application development with React Native. That means React can run on phones, tablets, even TVs and game consoles. So when React Native came along, React and React DOM were split into two libraries. Now you're going to learn how to build with React in the browser. So first, it's linking to the core React library, and React DOM is the library for building web apps and is what lets React connect to and manipulate the DOM. Now below the CDN links, I included a script tag that links to the file app.js, and this is where we will be writing our code. All right, now that our project has access to React, we'll get into coding in the next video. Now, if you're using a text editor like Visual Studio Code or Atom, I suggest that you install the Babel JavaScript extension or package for your text editor. It's going to provide helpful syntax highlighting for a lot of the code we're going to write. In addition, you'll need to run your React project on a local development server. I've posted information about setting up a local development server, as well as links to Babel extensions and packages for text editors in the teacher's notes with this video.
You can hear the guy talking, right, Arman?
Yeah.
Okay.
Earlier, I mentioned that one of the benefits of using React is that it's component-based. You create your UI as individual self-contained components, but we're not going to start off by writing components. You see, at its core, React is only a library for creating and updating HTML elements in your UI. That's all it does. So to better understand how React creates UI, we're going to begin using the React API to create React elements, which are the smallest building blocks of React apps.
So
once you have a basic understanding of how React describes and creates elements in your UI, it will be a smoother transition into understanding components and writing JSX, the special syntax React uses to create elements and use components. React provides the create element function to create and return elements. In app.js, the first thing we'll do is create a new variable named title. Then we'll call react.createElement. CreateElement accepts three arguments that define the element you want to create. The first argument is the type of element you want to create. This is usually a string, which represents an HTML element or tag. In this case, I want to create an h1 element, so I'll pass it the string h1, but this could also be div, span, p, and so on. And for readability, I'm placing each argument on a separate line. Now, the second argument you pass to React.createElement is an object containing any attributes and value you want to give the element. For example, to give the h1 element an ID we can later target with CSS, I'll pass an object and inside it write an ID property and set it to main-title. You can add as many comma-separated properties as you want to this object. For instance, I'll add a title attribute with title and set it to this is a title. Now, if we're not giving the element any attributes, you can pass it an empty object or the value null. So the third argument you pass to React.createElement is the contents or children of the element you're creating. For instance, any text that will display between the opening and closing h1 tags. It could also be more elements created by React.createElement, or it could even be null. I'll pass it the string.
Yeah, so the video is actually sped up, but I can slow it down for you guys. We'll put it 1.1x. I listen to books really high speed, so.
My first React element.
Superman over here.
Now, one of the first important details you should know about React is that React does not create actual DOM nodes. It's not creating elements in the way you'd expect. For instance, the title element we defined is not a real h1 element. It's actually an object that describes a DOM node. It's an object representation of a DOM node. To better demonstrate, I'll console log title to see what output we get. Over in the browser console, we see the title React element we created represented as an object. It has several properties like key, props.
I know React, but
now the important ones to pay
React,
attention
so
to right now are type and props. Notice how the value for type is h1. The value for props
I don't think
is
anyone
an object
uses
containing the ID and
element.
title properties we pass to
People just
create element.
components.
And the value for children is the string my first React element, which we passed as the third argument. So this React element is an object describing what you want to render to the DOM or display on the screen. For example, when the h1 gets rendered to the DOM, we should have an HTML element that looks like this. The type property describes what type of element we want to create, an h1 element. Props are like the properties or attributes of that element. In this case, it will have a title and ID attributes. And the children property string value will be turned into a text node that reads, my first React element. So this concept is the essence of React. The elements that React creates are actually plain JavaScript objects that describe the element you'd like to display to your UI. So how does React render a real DOM node? You'll learn about that next.
Okay. How do I access the console here, right? View, edit, increase font size. Okay, so I can increase the font for you guys without increasing the entire font size for everything. There we go. I'm trying to access the console in here. Hide console. This isn't the same. Do I actually have to like open the actual console? Is that it? Refresh? No? What do I just do, like app.js? It's not gonna work. Okay, well, we'll just keep moving.
Okay. So are you going to be coding on the Treehouse app?
Yeah.
You learned that React does not create real DOM nodes. By DOM nodes, I mean an actual h1, div, span, or a text node. Instead, React creates plain JavaScript objects that describe DOM nodes. For example, in the previous video, we used React.createElement to create a React element that describes an h1 with an ID and title attribute and text as its children. So how does this object representation of a DOM node get rendered and displayed on the page? Well, the React DOM library included in our project provides DOM-specific methods. The one you'll use the most is reactDOM.render, which renders React elements to the DOM. Back in app.js, below the title variable, let's call reactDOM.render. So this is the function that actually does the creating and updating of the DOM. It's what connects React to the DOM.
This is where we put
Render accepts two arguments.
HTML
the React element or JavaScript object that describes the element you'd like to render, and the actual HTML element you want to update or render to. So to render the title React element to the page, let's pass title as the first argument. And as the second argument, we'll use the plain JavaScript document.getElement by ID method to target a DOM element with the ID root. So this is the container element where
So
our code
all
will
of
be
the-
rendered by React. And there's no significance in the ID root. You'll often see it named app or container.
All this stuff
You can name it
here
anything you want.
is going to get attached.
Next, we'll need to
to
create this root element
root
in
that we're
our
about to
HTML
create.
file. Open index.html and create
Congrats,
a div
Kunal.
just below the opening body tag and above our scripts. Add an ID
Kunal, that's awesome.
and set it to root. And that's really all the work we'll need to do.
So
in
all the React is
index.html.
actually just getting attached
The
to this one
React
div,
code
and
we
everything
write
inside of this div is just
app.js
hiding and
will
displaying.
be rendered
or
into
rendering
this root div.
and
Or in React terms, this is where we will be mounting our React application. Over in the browser, when I refresh, we see the heading displaying the text on the page. And if we inspect the DOM with Chrome DevTools, we see the H1 element with the ID and title attributes we described with create element. Any existing DOM elements inside the root div will be replaced when render is first called. So for example, if I add the text loading inside the div, when I refresh the browser, you'll see the text get immediately replaced with the H1. So everything inside the root DOM element gets managed by React DOM.render. Now, applications usually consist of more than just a heading. So let's create other elements and compose them together. I'll create a description element and a header that wraps both the title and description. So just below the title variable, I'll create a new variable named desk or description. Assign it react.createElement. And I want to create a paragraph, so I'll pass the string p as the type argument. I'm not going to assign this element any properties, so I'll pass it null as the second argument. And as the third or children argument, I'll pass it the string. I just learned how to create a React node and render it into the DOM. You can provide the children as any number of arguments after the props argument. Create element considers anything after the second argument as children. Next, I'll create a header element by declaring a variable named header and assigning it react.createElement. I want to describe a header element here, so I'll pass it the string header as the first argument. I will pass it null as the second argument, since I don't want to assign the header any properties. Now this header is going to contain the title and description elements we just created. So I'll pass it the title and desk variables as the children.
that's kind of
Finally, let's render the parent header by passing the header variable to react.render.
So it's all contained inside.
I'll give
this.
app.js a save, and over in the browser, when I refresh, great, we see a header element with child H1 and P elements. So the main takeaway here is that React never touches the actual DOM directly. It just manages what gets rendered to the DOM and what gets updated via React DOM.render. It's not until render that the browser creates actual DOM elements, like our header and its children. So in other words, it's render's job to interpret the element objects and create DOM nodes out of them. At this point, you might be thinking, wow, it took 3 function calls and way too many lines of code just to create 3 elements. How exactly does React make it easier to build and maintain my UI? And you're probably right. React.createElement doesn't seem all that convenient right now. It makes it tricky to visualize the elements you're creating. But don't worry, React uses a faster, easier, and friendlier way to create elements with a special syntax called JSX.
So the
You'll learn about
properties
it in the
that
next video.
he puts null in for, what else would you put in there?
What do you mean?
Like, you know how you put null for the properties?
So properties are like, if you have like a, let's think if you have like an input HTML element, right? Then you put type submit, something like that, right? That's what you would put in here, right? But this is a header. This is a custom HTML element that we're just making. We're calling it header. And then inside of that header custom element, we're putting title and description which are actual, this is a p tag, this is an h1 tag, but header, right? I mean, I guess theoretically we could do that, but you get what I mean, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is where you add attributes, essentially, HTML attributes. Class ID, yeah, you could add that too. Yeah, you don't actually make React.create element for real apps. This is not what you do. You just make elements.
Okay.
Why null? I mean, we're not giving. We could give it like an ID, I guess, if we wanted. Here, we could give it an ID and call it maybe main heading, right? I wish it would tell me in the console if I have errors. This might be better to work in Visual Studio Code, but I didn't set up Visual Studio Code for this because I just did this on the fly. Like I was gonna talk with Armand anyways, but yeah. Is this making sense to you guys? Who am I talking to? I am talking to Armand. Armand is one of the people that I work with. He's here, so he's learning React, but he goes to college for Java. So he's learned basic HTML. He's learned all the basics of HTML, but now he's starting with React. So I was like, you know what? What if we just live streamed starting React together?
Yep.
You didn't add title and descript to your React on render? Actually I did. All right. I don't need to add that here. That doesn't actually matter. You'll need Babel and web server to use VS Code, yeah. So
Bitcoin, Jake, that's not the same with me, bro. Just having a hard time at Java.
So AB. Yo, Craig's here. What's up, Craig?
What up, Craig?
We got we're just rendering the header, and the header contains title and description, so we don't need to do it twice, otherwise it would be there twice, right? So here, and then if I save this, right, file save, and then preview workspace, doesn't actually show anything. I don't know if there's a browser error. Document.get element by ID is not a function. What? App.js 22. Okay, so let's go back. React DOM.render. It's supposed to be a... What's the syntax error here? Why is this being weird? Skip that and show them components and states. Well, I think you should probably start here. There's no sense in skipping, right? If you already know it, then what's the point? But he doesn't know it, so we should probably start with all the options. You might need to do this, maybe, probably never, but you might need to do this. Show him create React app. Yeah, I mean, we can do that eventually. I just didn't set up my local server before this, right? I wasn't going to stream this. I was just going to talk with him. You capitalize the D. What? That's not... Oh. That would be it. We did it. All right, so file, save. React DOM is not defined. Oh, so I just lowercased it. There we go. Finally. I'm just learning React basics. I'm just learning grammar for the first time. Okay. So I don't know why it's purple. We didn't tell it to be purple. Oh, CSS, right? We got CSS over here. So
Yeah, the app CSS.
this background is purple. So that's pretty cool. All right. So it's working. We can carry on. Another 20 minutes or maybe 10 minutes. See if we can finish this React basics here. Choose the correct answer. Which library lets us okay, so Babel. Wait, what? Oh, to the DOM, React DOM, right? Got it. Which method returns a React element given the type? So we would create the element, right? Which method renders React elements to the DOM? Okay, obviously the one I just goofed on. I just learning grammar. Exactly, yep. I can't spell. I missed the started in the middle there. I goofed. React manipulates and updates the DOM directly. React provides selector methods. Oh yeah, so yeah, so it's actually B here, right? We don't get access to that, but you could see that everything transpiled down to this get element by ID, right? So it'd be false.
We could describe our application's UI by using the react.createElement method over and over again. It really is possible to do. However, it's not convenient. It's a lot of extra typing, and all of those react.createElement calls make things pretty confusing, especially when working with larger apps. This is where JSX comes in. JSX is an extension to the JavaScript language that uses a markup-like syntax to create React elements. Most React developers write their UI using JSX because, as you'll see, it resembles writing HTML. Now that you've gained an understanding of the React.createElement API, I'll teach you how JSX is a simple abstraction on top of it. So let's start by converting our createElement calls for title and desk to JSX. First, I'll replace the title's React.createElement function with opening and closing H1 tags, and the text, my first React element.
See how much easier this is? Are you getting this right, Arman?
Yeah. It seems a lot easier, but would you put your HTML in there with React?
So this isn't actually a JSX file yet, but you can render just entire things rather than doing it like line by line, like element, attributes, and then what goes in the element. You can just type all of that out. You don't have to do it in 3 lines like this. So it's just yeah, this is where JSX comes in. And then you put the, so you would take this and you just put it in the React render, or actually it would just be, yeah, render. But we'll keep going.
Okay.
Place React.createElement in the description with a set of p tags and the text. I just learned how to create a React node and render it into the DOM. Now, this isn't really HTML that we're writing or actual JavaScript syntax. This is JSX, a syntax extension to JavaScript, and you're going to use it a lot while working with React. So let's save app.js and head over to the console, refresh, and notice how we get a syntax error. JSX is not valid JavaScript, so the browser cannot interpret it. To create React elements with JSX, it needs to be transpiled into React.createElement calls. We can use the Babel compiler to do this. Normally during development, you'd have a build system set up with Babel in a tool like Webpack to automatically process your JavaScript files. For instance, the tool Create React App provides a build system out of the box to do this. But it's also possible to use Babel directly in the browser via a script tag. In index.html, I'll add a script tag that points to Babel standalone, and you can copy this script tag from the teacher's notes with this video. This is going to allow us to use JSX without a build step. Now there's one more thing we need to do in order for Babel to work in the browser. In the script tag to our app.js file, add the type text/Babel.
Oh, so he wants to do it this way. You could just change the file name to app.jsx. But okay. But then we have to learn about import and export. All right, we'll do it this way.
This signals to the Babel script that the JavaScript in app.js should be compiled before being executed.
We didn't actually, I didn't make it. Hold, let me just make it real quick.
So what is Babel? Is that like
That's what takes JSX and compiles JSX down to regular JavaScript.
okay?
Because as a browser, like Google Chrome, Internet Explorer, Firefox, like it can't understand you writing HTML in JavaScript. It doesn't understand what's going on. So you have to have Babel, which takes that and then converts it all to regular JavaScript, and then you can learn, like then the browser can read it. But for convenience sake, they let us write it in, you know, because it's easiest for us to just write all this out and then have someone else do the processing, which is what Babel is. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, building a Webpack config file is like 8 videos, so we'll do the script tag. That's fine. But actually, technically, we could just do the create React app, and then we don't need to build a Webpack profile. We just run the yarn start, then we're good to go. But I get it, yeah. Okay, so title goes here. Let's close that tag. Save this. Why is this not liking it? Is it because it's not JSX? Alright, whatever, let's see. Yeah, what's the error? It's not happy. What did he do? Oh, unexpected token. But we already added that. I added that too. Const title. Why is it? Is it because it's not saved as JSX? Probably. Let's see.
Head over to the signals to the Babel script that the JavaScript in app.js should be compiled before being executed. I'll give this file a save, and over in the console, once I refresh,
Didn't he add a link too? Someone had a link, I think.
Oh, he didn't add a link. He just added this type here, right? So it was already on app.js, and then we come over to the actual app. I'm just not sure why it's not wanting to run. Right, show error. It wouldn't let me right click, but yeah, let's see. No error. I'm just not sure why it's not running. Does he have Babel somewhere that I don't? Like, oh, here, he added this. You're right. So here we go. You called it, Armand. I'm bad. There we go. We got it. We got it. We got it. Zach.
Cool.
Yeah, he added the Babel link.
And you can copy this script tag from the teacher's notes with this video. This is going to allow us to use Jet in production already. If I console log title, notice how it's still the same object describing the h1 element like we saw earlier. To demonstrate, I'll bring up the online Babel compiler or REPL so you can see how JSX gets converted to JavaScript. I'll simply copy the
this
title
would be good for you
and
to see,
desk
Armand,
variables
like
from
how it
app.js
actually converts.
and paste them into this left panel. Over in the right panel, we see that Babel converts the JSX into react.createElement calls, just like we wrote earlier. So this should look familiar to you. During this course, feel free at any time to copy and paste parts of your React code into this online compiler to check out and learn what's happening under the hood.
Appreciate you, Zach.
Now let's finish converting our create element calls to JSX. JSX tags can contain children or nested elements. So to convert the parent header element, I'll replace the value of the header variable with a set of parentheses, and inside the parens, write opening and closing header tags. I'm using parentheses to surround my JSX across multiple lines. While it isn't required, it allows for good code style and readability. So I also recommend that you wrap 2 or more lines of JSX in parentheses. Next, I'll place my h1 and p tags inside the header by simply copying them from the variables above and pasting them inside the header.
Couldn't we just
As
do
you'll
this,
see
though?
in the browser, rendering the same header into the DOM renders the same header element,
Or I think it would be
h1
this.
and p element to the page. Now, looking at what this JSX compiles to with Babel, you can see that it's all react.create element calls behind the scenes. And since JSX is an extension to the JavaScript language, it accepts any valid JavaScript expressions written inside curly braces. This allows you to make your JSX more dynamic. For example,
So, do you understand what's going on here, Armand?
Yeah, he's moving the title and description into just one header variable.
He's just taking this and he's pasting it in here, so he's not actually using title anymore. I could, if I commented this out and I did this, like it would still work if I save it. Still works. He's not using the variable anymore. He's just hard coding it into it.
Okay.
So what I had here a second ago, this is actually using the variable. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So instead of copying and pasting this whole right side, we just put the name of the variable there. Boom, done. Right? So we could do the same thing for description.
So generally, would it just be better to hard code it or just
No,
put the variable
Put the
in there?
variable. Less code,
Okay.
more speed, better overall.
Right, sounds
So,
good.
I don't actually know if this will work. I've never done a create element in there. Maybe. Yeah, it works. Interesting that you can do that with that as well. So what we could do is just refactor this to be this is the description. We'll save this. And then it's still the same, right? So it should be exactly the same. Yeah. Still works. Still good to go. But you get what's happening, right?
Yeah. So then for the variables, you have to put them inside curly braces.
Yeah, this is just syntax for React. They didn't talk about this. I just already know it, but you put variables that you have in braces like this.
Okay.
Yeah. And then we're rendering it down here, and we're attaching it onto the root, which is this div that we made earlier.
Okay.
Right. And so we haven't got to like unmounting and mounting and lifecycle methods that I bombed in that interview, but yeah. Okay, so let's see how much we want. We got one to go here.
Set the value of the
wrap it up.
title and desk variables to a string by replacing the h1 and p tags with quotes. Then I'll use the title and desk variables inside the h1 and p tags in the header by wrapping them in curly braces. So first I'll replace
so
the
literally what I
h1's
just
text
said, so we can
with
skip
a
this
set
part.
of curly braces. And
Zuby, can you update what's going on? Yeah, so we're actually pair coding. This is Armand. You guys haven't really met him before, but Armand is going to college. He's going to college for computer science. He's learning Java right now, but he's doing web dev on his own, and I'm helping him get through React, right? He has never done React before, so I was like, you know what, let's just like, normally we wouldn't stream this, like we would just talk, right? And I would help him. But I was like, yeah, what if we stream this to everyone and we could work through it? So this is the first time he's ever done React, so I'm kind of explaining it, and I'm showing you guys if you guys are interested, so I hope it's helping everyone here. Let me go back.
And inside the curly braces, reference the title variable. And right below in the paragraph, I'll replace the text with a set of curly braces and write the desk variable.
So you
and
can
over in the browser, you can see that everything is still the same. When you use curly braces in JSX, it's called a JSX expression. A JSX expression is always surrounded by curly braces and can be placed between JSX tags like this, or as the value of an attribute in a JSX tag. So for example, I'll create a new variable named myTitleID and set it to the string main title. And now I can use the value assigned to my title ID as the H1's ID value, like so. And if we inspect the H1 in the console, we see that the ID attribute is set to main title. Good. So now let's make our static text just a little bit more dynamic with a JSX expression. I'll create the variable name and assign it the string Gil. Inside the H1, I'll replace the title variable inside the curly braces with the name variable, then add an apostrophe S after it, and the text first, React element. Now I'll go ahead and delete the title variable.
You kind of get what's going on,
since
right?
I'm no longer using
doing exactly what we did. And so you can put
I'll give app.js a save, and
you can put these variables anywhere, like as attributes. So for example, if we have another element called like input, oops, and then we were to have like an actual input tag, and we could do type equals submit, right, or whatever. You could actually make this a variable.
So then why did he do the main title thing? I saw
the main title thing. Which one exactly?
He put the main title as an ID into the
probably because he wants to style it after this.
Okay.
Yeah, that'd be my guess. I haven't got there. First contact with React's not fun. Hope you understand stuff. Yeah, I mean, I'm one viral vid away from the 30K. I just need to post 5 best languages. I mean, you're one viral vid away all the time. You're one lottery ticket away from winning, right? It's the same logic. That's not how I do it, right? We'll get there, right? Consistent, work smart, work hard, not just one or the other. But yeah, so if we were to do, I don't know, just like a string in there, we could place it. You can use it as variables. That's what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
And over in the browser, once I refresh, we see the text Gil's first React element as the title. Just remember that wherever you're including the curly braces, you're exiting JSX and entering JavaScript territory.
So then React just essentially makes it a lot faster to like code all this, like.
No, the point of React is that you don't ever have to reload your page. So we haven't gotten that far yet, but you never have to reload your page. Nothing on this page has to, like, if you make a static HTML page and you click the little link and it opens a new page and you have to wait a second while it loads.
Yeah.
React doesn't actually load a new page. It just loads different components inside of it. So you can think of everything like the CSS is just displaying none and then displaying a new element instead, right? So it pulls one off and puts another one on, but you're not actually changing the page. The page just looks like it's changing. It's all an illusion. That's single page application.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, so it's a lot faster, right? You don't have to click and wait for the data. I mean, you still have to wait for data and stuff to load, but it's just overall it's faster.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, the CSS already matches the main ID. Okay, I got you.
The curly brace
So
will
skip it a little bit.
But as you can see, multi-line comments.
Comments are a little bit different. So there's a difference. There's a slight difference here. He's just typing strings. He's typing strings in here, and then he puts it around, or he puts it inside the element he wants, whereas we have actually defined the element type inside of the variable instead of just giving it a string. You know how, so like in our variables, we're just using these little braces here.
Yeah.
Like we're not putting a div around title, right? Because we've already set title to have an H1, or we're not putting an H1 around it.
Okay, yeah.
We've already set it to have it. So he's doing it slightly differently. I prefer to make the elements as they are rather than just strings, but depends on the use case.
Element functions, comments.
See what's going on.
Looking full looks like HTML mixed into your JavaScript. Remember, JSX is not HTML. It really is an alternative syntax.
So for example, if you wanted to do a class name or a class, like if you wanted to style a class, if you wanted to make like an HTML element and you wanted to have like a class equals, right?
Yeah.
And then you would give it, and then you'd style it. You can't do that in JSX. It has to be class name, like this. So when you're using React, you can't type class. You have to type class name, because this is class by itself here is a reserved word in JavaScript. Class is like, like in Java, right? You have classes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is a reserved word in JavaScript, so you can't do class equals because it will error out. So you have to do class name, which then, lets you use it like regular CSS stuff. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. All right, guys. I think that's about it. We can do the quiz here if we want. Let's do that real quick. Keep up the momentum. Is using JSX with React? No, it's not optional. Oh, it is optional. Oh, yeah, that's true. I guess you could do the create method. But it's not, in production and getting a job, it's not optional. Oh, God. Fill in the blank below. Yeah, we're just going to skip the quiz. We talked about it. We talked about it enough. We're on to React Basics Part 2. Maybe we'll pick this up again if you guys are interested. I can keep doing these Team Treehouse streams. If you guys want to follow along too, you can check out. The link is in the description below. It's pretty good. I thought that was a pretty good explanation.
Team Treehouse, Twitter.
Hashtag Team Treehouse. Yeah, you guys know. So we'll go back to the Hangout screen. I guess that's it for the live stream. That was 2 hours of live streaming, 1 AMA, and then an hour doing Team Treehouse of me actually talking about code and talking about specifics of code and how React works. I don't know if you guys liked it. If you did, hit that thumbs up. And we're gonna sign off. So I guess that's it. So thanks for watching, guys. I hope you guys have an awesome one, and I'll catch you guys later in my viral video of top 5 languages for 2019.
Peace out, guys.
Later.